For a while now, I've tried to avoid having social media on my phone. I still use it, I still download it sometimes, but I try not to keep it on there because it distracts me from doing things which I find more fulfilling. One app I haven't deleted, though, is LinkedIn. And I don't know, maybe it's just my short-term content consumption desires, but I keep opening up this app and looking at what people are posting on there. And I feel like I kind of understand the meta of different apps like TikTok and Instagram, everything, but I've been learning more about how LinkedIn works and what people post on LinkedIn. And a lot of it is just sort of like business entrepreneur talk, trying to be like inspirational and like really putting ways to optimize your operating system at work and life and everything. And if that's what's making them and their followers happy, whatever. But recently, I saw a couple posts about art stuff, music stuff, movie stuff, and I was like, okay, I have to talk about this because it makes me upset. And it makes me feel like LinkedIn people don't understand art. First post I saw was talking about the Grammys, Chappell Roan winning Best New Artist, which personally I think was quite an inspired choice from the Grammys to give Chappell Roan Best New Artist and Sabrina Carpenter Best Pop Album. I thought that was a fair sort of distribution of the awards. But let's get into the post. My hat's gonna fall off. It's gonna be okay. There are two things that I can't stop thinking about since Chappell Roan said these words during her Grammy acceptance speech. When accepting her Grammy, she used her time to read a prepared speech advocating for artists' rights in the relationship with labels. Her words were met with a lot of applause from the many artists in front of her. It was an incredibly bold and on-brand way for her to use her time after winning her first Grammy. Okay, so starting off in a fine way, supporting things that should be supported, but we can see these little dashes, these little inclinations that something's like a little off, something's a little business pilled, where it talks about her talking in a on-brand way. Okay, that's an interesting word to use. I would say she's just speaking from her personal experiences and speaking out something that's important to her, but let's continue. Also, as she recognized that her hat was about to fall off, she let everyone know it was going to happen and that all will be okay. In that moment, she also taught a masterclass in maintaining composure and confidence when things don't go according to plan. All right, we're starting to get off the rails here. She has this whole costume. She's walking up on stage. She's got this fun little hat, and it's about to fall off. And she's like, oh, my hat's going to fall off. She's just making a little side comment.
This past year, Brat was the best night of my life this year. My hat's going to fall, and it's going to be okay. Thank you all who listened to get me here today.
And then she says something cool about supporting artists. She's not being on brand. She's not teaching a master class in maintaining composure. She's just being herself. But this poster brings us to this dramatic conclusion. I put a Post-it on my desk. It says, my hat's gonna fall off. It's gonna be okay. How do you remind yourself that when things go wrong and don't work as planned, that the show must go on and it will be okay? What an odd thing to focus on from this powerful moment, where not only does she win after going through this whole experience where she was trying to get signed by a label, where she was dropped by the label, where she comes back, she gets big enough to have a Best New Artist Grammy win. It's an amazing story, and she's trying to use her voice to challenge the recording industry to support artists with health insurance, something that's very topical right now with United Healthcare doing all their crazy stuff. And you take this message, this story, and you focus on teaching a masterclass in confidence and composure? What are you going on about? Like, you're missing the whole point. This is where I'm like, I feel like you don't understand art, you don't understand artists because you don't understand what the important message here is. You did note the part about artists' rights, but that's not your main point here. The main point is how to inspire you. I don't know if you just watched too many TED Talks or something, but a lot of times when people are talking, they aren't trying to inspire you. People talk and use their words in a lot of different types of ways. Art and artists are trying to say a lot of different things. And so, I just feel like these LinkedIn people are so focused on inspiration and how to sort of hack their lives and hack their efficiency that it's like you're focusing on the wrong things. You're missing the point. Which brings me to my next post about The Brutalist. Oscars are coming up. The Brutalist is nominated for a bunch of awards, including Best Picture. I went and saw it, and so did this poster. They say, my first ever LinkedIn movie review. The Brutalist. It was brutal, awful, horrible. It was brutal that I wasted 4 hours of my life on this movie. Okay. Yes, 4 hours. There was an intermission. I didn't even know movies could have an intermission. One of the 5 biggest mistakes of my life was not just bailing at the intermission and going to a bookstore nearby. I went in without knowing much about the movie, but I was optimistic and smiling. Oscar contender, lots of good reviews, I was hopeful. And wrong. So very wrong. The movie was incredibly boring, plotting. I kept hoping it would get better. It never did. It felt like it was sucking the life out of my body. Okay, very dramatic response here. If you don't like a movie, that is okay. If a movie is not your type of thing, that is fine. If you don't like to go see long or artsy movies, that is totally fine. But please be aware that that is a personal preference and that does not mean anything for the art itself. This guy talks about how the movie was so long and it had an intermission. Movies shouldn't have an intermission. It's like, yeah, most movies don't, but I thought the intermission was actually an inspired choice because yes, the movie is very long. It's over 3.5 hours long. So instead of just requiring the audience to just sit down there and brute force their way through the movie, it's decided, no, let me cut the movie in half to make the audience experience better. And it actually works for the movie as well because there's kind of 2 parts to the movie. Things shift in the second half. So I went with some people, and like during the intermission, I went to the bathroom, and then we were just kind of talking, like, what do you think of the movie so far? What do you think it's going? And, we were having a conversation as people who enjoy these types of movies like to have. And then the movie finished out, and I thought it was very good. I thought it said so much. To say that it was boring and that it was plotting is so indicative that you don't appreciate this type of art. I think the movie said so much about being an artist, about class divisions, about being a foreigner or an immigrant, about being in a group that is treated more harshly. I think it says stuff about love and relationships. There's so much that you can really dig into with this movie, and this guy picked up on none of it. And if you don't, that's okay. But to say unequivocally that the movie is bad because you didn't like it, I think just shows that you don't get art. But because he's this business LinkedIn guy, he can't just stop there. He has to think that he's correct and tie this into some greater point. Let's continue. It felt like it was sucking the life out of my body. And it reminded me, this is rich, it reminded me of too many sales demos that I had witnessed. No joy, no energy, no oomph. Just an audience that is checking their watch and waiting for it to be over. I love sales demos that start off with a bang. Put the good stuff up front. You don't have to go step by step in a methodical order. Get the audience hyped. Be like Adrien Brody in Showtime, not like Adrien Brody in The Brutalist. Dude, what the hell? Adrien Brody in The Brutalist is giving a lifetime performance. He's giving a tortured, he's giving a complex, he's giving an amazing performance in The Brutalist. And for you to say that it was boring and that you were checking your watch the whole time and that why can't they just put some oomph in it? What are you talking about? What kind of movies do you like? Do you just like Marvel movies and Deadpool and Wolverine where they're dancing at the beginning, like really bring them in with a nice hook? Do you understand movies? Do you understand this art form? Because I feel like you don't. Okay.
I need to calm down.
Okay. I don't understand how to run a business or be a good employer or all that stuff. So, like, if you want to have your little site where you talk about all this stuff and you speak in a way that is efficient and bullet pointed and grabs people and hooks people in, okay, fine. Not for me. But don't come into my field. Don't come into the field of art and artistry and say, like, what's going on around here? It's not hooking me. Come on, hook me. Hook me with a little oomph here at the beginning, because that's foolish. Art and good art, and the art that the Oscars occasionally will recognize, is trying to push the boundaries and do something more complex. And if you can't pick up on that complexity and enjoy it and get something from it, that says something more about you than the art. And to further take your perspective of how you think about things and relate art to fucking sales demos or master classes is so short-sighted and so far removed from what the point of art is about. Art is supposed to say something more about the human experience and how we live and grow and develop and learn and struggle. And for you to take that and to make it this quippy little thing, this quippy little lesson, because you didn't pick up on what it was trying to say, the message that it was trying to get across, is so sad to see. It's so foolish of you to put that out there because it shows how media illiterate you really are. This treads some familiar ground that I've talked about in other videos, but just because you feel confident in a certain area of life does not mean you are good at everything. So just have a little bit of humility And if you don't get something, let it go and try to understand where other people are coming from. Try to understand what other people are talking about. Try to understand who the audience is and who the artist is. And if you do that, I think you'll get much more out of the things that you engage in whenever they are unfamiliar territory. Just try to understand the culture of if you're going to something else. People who make movies can definitely learn about this too, but it's just something that everyone can learn. So LinkedIn, do your business thing, do whatever, but just leave art out of what you're talking about. Okay? Can we do that? Good. That's pretty much it. Just some unscripted thoughts and reactions I had to stuff recently that I wanted to share. If you have any thoughts about LinkedIn or the Grammys or the Oscars, feel free to drop them below, and I'll see you next time. Okay, so long.